Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of The Monkey Business. This is Hela and Natalia, and we are from Camilio, the leading platform to add dashboards to any SaaS application. So like every month, we look for the hottest topics in SaaS, and we invite a guest leader of a certain industry to talk to you about the challenges, opportunities, and ways to make business grow in the most creative ways.
Yeah, and this episode is especially for product people, so just come closer to the screen and listen, take notes, because today we will be speaking how to make market feedback as a fuel for staying first in the SaaS race. And we will be discussing different kind of options, how you can communicate with your customers and how can you get valuable insights from them. And for that, we invited Simon, VP of Product at Otter.ai, that award-winning AI assistant for meetings and conferences. Hi, Simon.
Hi, Natalia. Hi, everyone.
We met, I think, back in Berlin during the conferences, fun times when it was still possible. And already back time was really fascinated about Otter.ai, but for our webinar guests, can you please tell a little bit more what you guys are doing, what's the product about, and of course, a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you for having me on this webinar. So my name is Simon Lau. I'm the VP of Product at Otter.ai. So Otter.ai is an application that gives you the not-so-secret superpower of remembering things without taking copious notes. How does it do it? It records, transcribes, and shares searchable audio notes of your Zoom meetings, Google Meet, and really any live conversations, so everyone can stay focused and engaged during the conversation. So right now, we have an application that you can download for iOS, Android, and it runs on your web browser as well. So it's been a really fun journey with Otter.ai. It's a Silicon Valley startup in the San Francisco Bay Area, and the product has been around for 3+ years, and it's been a lot of fun. We're growing our user base, we're growing our business, and it's a really exciting time to build an application that's powered by AI and really delivering a ton of value for conversations.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Simon. Thank you for being with us despite the time difference as well. We know it's very early for you, so thanks for making that effort. I wanted to ask you, how long have you personally been working in the product field, and what are the main challenges you saw in this field sector?
So I've been creating products for way longer than I like to admit. So I spent the early years of my career in engineering roles and then transitioned to product management later on. And I've been doing product management since. Key challenges in this field, I think really what comes to mind is that it's very difficult to build products that people love. And in fact, I've seen so many examples of companies building product that either people don't want or there really isn't big enough of a market for them to be able to sustain in business. But I really think that it's great that people still keep trying and have the passion for products. So I love all the people whom I've met who are product leaders and people who are entrepreneurs who create products. And this is a very, very fascinating thing for me. Sometimes there are also products that are a little bit ahead of its time. So really this is you have to strike the right balance, and that's really the key challenge, to be able to deliver something innovative but still resonate with the customers of today and be able to bridge the gap.
And being in this field, how do you actually collect client feedback, and what is the way to translate it into possible features that you can implement into your product to stay to keep up with the time and with customer requests?
feedback really comes from many, many different sources. So first and foremost, as a creator of products, you have to understand what is the problem that you're trying to solve, and who are your customers that you're trying to solve the problem. So in the early stages, most people would need to do user research, right? You need to talk to your potential customers and really understand what are their needs and what are their pain points, what are the existing alternatives, right? How do they do things today? And be able to understand the workflow, right? Because oftentimes you're not going to be able to create a product that will address the entirety of what they need. Maybe it's you're carving out a step, a very painful step, or a step that needs a little bit more automation, or a step that makes things easier and saving them time. So user research is really important in the early stages. And once you have already been able to have hypothesized on a potential product solution, then you do some prototypes and you build it. So you do some user testing, right? You show the prototype before you spend time building it. You go through and validate some of your potential solutions before you spend the time investing in engineers to build the product. And let's fast forward to the point when you have a first version of your product, your MVP, minimal viable product, and you're about to launch. You want to do some beta testing, right? So you want to get feedback from your beta testers. That can be friends and family. It can be anybody who just want to sign up and get a little Starbucks gift card as a reward for doing a beta testing, so to speak. And then once you have launched your product, you want to be always in listening mode to look for, maybe you do some customer interviews, go back to your beta testers, and maybe these are the early adopters. So you could conduct some customer interviews. If you're a B2C product and then you want to read the app reviews, right? Or if you have a lot of customers that are on social media, you want to pay attention to their feedback there. And then continue to fast forward. If you're a B2B type of business and product, then you want to talk to your sales team. You want to talk to your customer success team and to understand why did we lose a deal, right, to a competitor, and hear that feedback from your sales team. Or talk to your customer success team and understand why did your customers not renew. So I'm just listing out just a few things throughout your product life cycle. There are many touch points and many type of activities that you would need to do to gather that customer feedback.
Awesome. And one question comes to my mind. So while gathering all this feedback, while you have all of these sources, all these inputs, how do you actually filter what is correct feedback, what will actually serve you, and what everybody thinks they need when it doesn't really go with your vision of where the product is going?
That's a super great question. And because as I mentioned, there's so many different sources of input and feedback, you really need to be able to sort them through. So what I would have to say about this is you have to be empathetic and critical in your listening skills. And let me break this down a little bit. Empathetic listening means to me that you need to put yourself in the shoes of your customers or your potential customers and empathize their needs and pain points and understand where they're coming from. Why are they asking for that enhancement, or why are they asking for that new feature? To really understand and put yourself in their shoes, understand for your target customers what their workflows are, so that you can see a pattern that if you collect a few data points, talk to a few customers, and you see a pattern that, okay, for this type of target customer that you're building the product for, this seems like a recurring feedback, then great. Then that means it will add some weight to, if you were to prioritize this enhancement, it will address the needs to the broader group of users that you are building your product for.
Yeah.
Critical listening is this, being able to be going beyond empathizing with the customer. Then now you have to think, does it really fit with the mission and goal of the product you're building? Is it going to move the needle? Is this something that is literally what the user is asking for? Or could there be other ways to address the problem? Because sometimes your customers might be asking very specific ways for you to address the problem. They say, I need X, Y, and Z. I need to do it this way. But maybe there are other ways that you can still address the needs. So that's where critical listening is very important. You kind of have to understand where they're coming from, but not necessarily just instantly type up a user story and put it into your backlog and say, this is what we're going to be building. So having a good balance between empathetic and critical listening skills is really important. And then being able to sort through all the feedback to fit under the target segment of your users and see if it's really going to move the needle to address your business goals.
Yeah. So it's basically you have to, you cannot turn into a company that just implementing features that your clients ask, because then eventually the product that you started building from the beginning will be just a bunch of features that might be not correlating with each other. And when you just implement customer feedback, it's really important to stay true to what was the vision from the very beginning.
That's right.
And when you were talking about working with different teams, also, what's the approach here? Do you sell what you build, or do you build what can be sold? And what's the way you collaborate with other teams? How to make sure that everyone is heard, you stay true to your roadmap and to your vision, but also everyone is happy, that magical moment.
Well, so one thing that we have to realize is that you can never make everybody happy. So that's it. That is a balancing act. So to your question, do you build what you sell? Do you sell what you build? Well, obviously you want to sell what you build. And a funny thing to say about that is, oftentimes there is a natural tension between sales team and product team. The sales team needs to meet their quota and always want to say yes to customers, and the product team needs to be very disciplined about saying no most of the time, and so that you can keep the team focused and building something that can have a sustainable business, right? So there's that natural tension. So once again, the key thing about this is that having regular meetings with your stakeholders, cross-functional stakeholders between product team and sales team, between product team and your customer success team is very important. Having that regular dialogue and really hear from the sales and customer success stakeholders to relay what are the, how can the product team help to unblock their sales, their deals, and how can product team address the gap in helping the customer success team do more renewals. So being open to have that dialogue and regular conversation is very important. And then in turn, the product team can share the roadmap so that we can say, these are the things that exist. Here are some other ways that you can address your potential customer or existing customer's needs instead of what the customer is asking. So being able to map those requests to existing product features and providing workarounds or providing visibility in the near term and long term roadmap, that would often be very helpful to keep more people happy, both the cross-functional stakeholders and the customers happy.
Absolutely. It's always about finding the middle way in between. So do you actually have a community management at Otter.ai, and how do you work on expanding that and at giving back to this community?
That's great. So user community is very important. especially for a company that builds products for B2C, but I would say even for B2B businesses as well. So yes, we do. We have a social media manager that handles building not only just the engaging with our users in social media, but also building communities. For example, we have a Facebook group. We also oftentimes go on Clubhouse now and talk to our customers and users. So yes, this is.
By the way, how is Clubhouse working for you? Because it's a new buzz thing. Suddenly, it was all over the internet. Everyone is in Clubhouse, and there was so much buzz about it. How did it work out for you guys to stay in touch with your community?
Honestly, we're still learning. So I've been on Clubhouse since February. Our social media manager has been in Clubhouse since January. So we're still in our early stages. I think it's great. We're often, because it is voice driven, so it's a whole new type of way to engage. And the serendipity of being able to bump into, either peers in the product field and being able to bump into your customers. Your customers will hop into a room and start talking about how much they love the product or want to put in a feature request. That having that instant connection, instant engagement, I think is super fun and super valuable. So yeah, we're still learning how we can leverage that platform to engage with our community, but I think it's super cool.
And you also mentioned in the beginning that you had some, of course, when you were in MVP stage, that you had early adopters. So can you tell us a little bit more? Who were those people and why did they decide to early adopt you? What were their needs and how did you solve, and what was the problem that you helped them to solve?
So let's say you have a startup or you are in a company that has a small team that acts like a startup inside a larger company, right? So essentially you're building a potential new product or new service offering. You really want to get that early feedback from early adopters or from friends and family, whether it comes from friends and family or it comes from people in your professional network. What's happened to your VCs, your investors, investor network, to see if there are other companies in the portfolio that can be signed up to be your early adopters, to really tease out, do you have that right product market fit? Are you building the right functionality up front? What are the minimal requirements that are the minimal set of features that you need to prove out the value that you are providing to this segment of potential customers? That's really, really important. It doesn't have to be that many people. For B2B businesses, I'll say probably 5 to 10. That's a good starting point. For B2C types of application, maybe like 25, 50, around that many. That should come about from your friends and family and from your professional network. Also, you can do user research and try to recruit and pay, these user research services to recruit testers as well. So yeah, I think it's really important to go through that to get that early validation so that you don't end up building something and spending time building something that won't deliver the value that you seek for the initial product.
Cool. And what were your biggest learnings from your early adopters? And were there any feedbacks that you had to later on, that you discovered later on with a bigger sample size that was actually not the case and that you had to change it back?
I'll use some specific examples from for Otter. So during the early stages of getting feedback and getting early adopters, there were a few things that we've learned. One, and I think that can resonate with many of the startup founders as well. One thing is keeping the basic things working and working well. So for Otter, recording is a key functionality, being able to record the audio, right, and be able to transcribe it in real time. So the reliability of the recording function, it sounds really basic, right? When you press the record button, it should start right away. When you press stop, it will stop, and then it will make sure that it captures the audio clearly. Those are really, really basic things. It seems like a no-brainer, but that's super important, right? Losing a recording is very, very painful. So we learned that the basic functionality needs to work really well. So people can rely on your app. Second thing is keeping it simple. The fewer steps, the better, right? I think that's also pretty universal feedback, but apply to your specific application. What are the key workflows? Is it for our case, being able to remember some of the preferences? And don't ask the user every single time. So having, if you ask people to select an option, then most likely they want to perform the same option again the next time you repeat that action. So that's a very simple tip. But you tend to get that feedback very early on, and it's good to incorporate that as you build that core functionality. And last but not least, provide some flexibility to get the job done for the user. So what would be a good example? So for Otter, we record and transcribe speech to text. Once you get the text, you can go, within Otter, you can play it back, you can read it, you can listen to it. But people want to export it, right? Because the workflow involves exporting the text to put it into another word processing application, so that you can finish writing the article, or you can create a user story for your product backlog, or you can share it with your colleagues in an email, right? So being able to export the text, you don't have to do integrations with all these other third-party apps. Just being able to export the text into clipboard or save it to a text file, that will naturally makes it easier for the users to complete the workflow. So providing flexibility to get the job done is really important, and you just want to pick the right approach to at least enable that, rather than waiting until you have a deeper integration to all the different apps.
Yeah. And so to sum up, because we are running out of time here, so to sum up, can you maybe provide us with 3 do's and don'ts when you collect market feedback and implement it into your roadmap, something really crisp and sharp for our listeners and viewers to take with them home?
Sure. So I'll summarize a few points I mentioned earlier. Be very passionate about solving a problem for your target customer, right? So that's the main thing about building products. You need to be passionate about, you need to understand and articulate the problem that you're solving for, and understand who you're solving the problem for. So being able to understand the target customer is really important. In terms of gathering feedback and sorting them through, I talked about empathetic versus critical listening. Well, you need both. You need to understand the difference between the two. So as you are gathering feedback, being empathetic and critical in your listening is also very important. And then last but not least, I would say prioritization, right? Being able to understand what is urgent versus what is important. Sometimes if you are to prioritize something that is urgent because you want to win the deal, well, that's one thing. But the important things to do might be something that is in the long run that matters more to your business. And being able to identify high impact versus effort. ideally you want to pick the requests that have high impact and require very low engineering effort, and you really want to prioritize that. One thing that I would recommend is the RICE prioritization framework, so you can analyze the reach, impact, and confidence and effort, and that will help you sort out all the product feedback into a prioritized roadmap.
It's the first time I hear such a name. And of course, typical in the business world, they make it catchy, RICE. Like, it's really funny. How is it called? And of course, there is a nice abbreviation behind it. I think we are done with the questions that we prepared for you. And we hope that it was interesting for people that were joining us to listen, and they had many takeaways to go to talk to their product managers or in general with the team, and see how can they implement and try to follow some of your advice that we heard today.
Thank you so much, Simon, for joining us. And we for sure enjoyed it. I learned a lot, and will definitely be listening to the market and implementing it in the next steps.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And feel free to use Otter for all your user research, use Otter for all your meetings, use Otter for all your learnings, because it really helps me as a product manager to be able to use my own product to help myself more productive and help others be on the same page after all the meetings. So, and thank you so much for having me in this webinar.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.